Captain Jake Morrison stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around the massive space station called Nexus Prime. The metal walls stretched high above his head, covered in strange symbols that glowed with soft blue light. Alien beings floated and walked through the corridors, some with too many arms, others with no arms at all. The air smelled like copper and something sweet he could not name. Jake had never seen anything like this place before. Earth had only learned to travel faster than light 50 years ago, and most humans still felt like children when they visited other worlds. The Galactic Council ruled over thousands of planets and species that had been traveling between stars for centuries. To them, humans were babies who had just learned to walk. He followed the floating guide robot down a long hallway lined with windows. Outside, he could see hundreds of ships from different worlds. Some looked like giant crystals, others like living creatures with wings of metal. His own human ship looked tiny and plain next to them. The robot stopped at a large door that split open with a soft hiss. Jake walked into a huge round room with seats arranged in circles rising up like steps. In the center sat a desk made of what looked like black glass. Behind it was the largest alien Jake had ever seen. Supreme Chancellor Zixmoth was 12 feet tall and looked like he was made of purple crystal. His 4 eyes glowed yellow as he watched Jake approach. Around the room, dozens of other aliens sat in the seats, all watching the human with expressions Jake could not read. Captain Morrison, the Chancellor, spoke, and Jake's translator made the words sound cold and formal. "You have been called before this council to answer serious charges against your species." Jake felt his stomach drop. He had come here thinking this was just a regular meeting about trade agreements and colony permits. No one had told him humans were in trouble. "What charges?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. A tall, thin alien with skin like metal stood up. "The humans have broken the sacred technology accords. They have built weapons that are forbidden by galactic law." The Chancellor waved his hand and a large screen appeared in the air above them. Jake watched as videos began to play, showing human colonies on different worlds. The images showed people working on construction projects, ships moving between planets, and what looked like military exercises. "These recordings show your people conducting illegal weapons testing," said another alien that looked like a floating cloud of gas. "We have intercepted communications mentioning something called Project Deadshot and Operation Steel Rain." Jake's mind raced. He knew about both projects, but they were not weapons programs. Project Deadshot was about exploring deep space to find new planets. Operation Steel Rain was a plan to make dead worlds suitable for life by changing their atmosphere and weather. "You are wrong," Jake said. "Those are not weapon programs. They are civilian projects for exploration and colonization." The aliens in the room made sounds that his translator could not convert to words. Some sounded like laughing, others like angry hissing. "Do not lie to us, human," the Chancellor said, his yellow eyes growing brighter. "Your species is young and primitive. You think you can deceive beings who have lived for thousands of years?" More videos played on the screen. Jake watched human engineers working on strange devices, scientists testing new materials, and construction crews building facilities that looked different from normal human buildings. To alien eyes, everything humans did probably looked suspicious. "The Council has made its decision," the Chancellor announced. "Humanity has violated galactic law. Your punishment is immediate and final." Jake felt cold fear creep up his spine. "What punishment?" "You will be stripped of all faster-than-light travel technology. Your species will be confined to your home solar system. All human colonies on other worlds will be placed under the protection and supervision of the hegemony." The hegemony. Jake had heard stories about them. They were the Council's police force, made up of the strongest and most advanced alien species. When they said a world was under their protection, it really meant that world was their prisoner. "You cannot do this," Jake said, his voice rising. "Humans have rights as council members." "Rights are earned through wisdom and restraint," said the metal-skinned alien. "Your people have shown neither. The decision is final." The screen changed to show human colonies across 3 star systems. As Jake watched in horror, Alien warships appeared near each colony. The same message was being broadcast to every human settlement. Surrender all advanced technology within 72 hours or face military intervention. Jake tried to speak again, but the Chancellor raised one massive hand for silence. This session is ended. Captain Morrison, you will remain on this station until the hegemony has secured all human territories. Any attempt to warn your people will be considered an act of war. Guards moved toward Jake, but before they could reach him, his personal communicator buzzed softly. The message was from Dr. Lisa Grant, Earth's top alien expert and one of Jake's oldest friends. The message was short and coded in a way only he would understand. The 3 words made his heart race. They don't know. Jake looked up at the Chancellor and the other council members. They sat there looking pleased with themselves, certain they had solved a problem before it could grow bigger. They saw humans as primitive children who had gotten their hands on dangerous toys. But if Lisa was right, the council had made a terrible mistake. They thought they knew everything about humanity, but they had only seen what humans wanted them to see. For 50 years, while the galaxy had been watching and judging, humans had been learning and preparing for a day that might come. As the guards led him away to a holding cell, Jake almost smiled. The Galactic Council was about to discover that underestimating humanity was the biggest error they had ever made. The sleeping giant was about to wake up, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news hit Earth like a thunderbolt. Within hours of Jake Morrison's arrest, every major news network was broadcasting the same shocking story. The Galactic Council had declared war on humanity. Well, they called it protective supervision, but everyone knew what it really meant. President Alex Stone sat in the underground command center beneath Mount Cheyenne, watching the reports flood in from across human space. The room was filled with the most important people on Earth, all talking at once, all asking the same question. How had this happened so fast? General Ray Collins slammed his fist on the metal table, making the coffee cups jump. The old soldier had fought in 3 wars on Earth and had scars on his face to prove it. Those alien bastards think they can just walk in and take over our colonies? They have no idea what they are dealing with. Admiral Beth Rodriguez stood next to a huge screen showing the locations of every human settlement beyond Earth. Red dots were appearing next to each colony as alien warships moved into position. Her fleet of Earth defense ships was spread thin across dozens of star systems, and the enemy had more ships than she could count. The hegemony fleet is massive, she said, her voice tight with worry. Their ships are bigger than ours and their weapons are more advanced. On paper, we should not stand a chance. Dr. Lisa Grant walked into the room, still wearing the clothes. She had traveled in from the alien space station. Everyone turned to look at her. She was the person who knew more about alien technology than anyone else on Earth, and right now she might be their only hope. Lisa, thank God you made it back, President Stone said. We need to know everything about what happened up there. Lisa sat down heavily in a chair and looked around at all the worried faces. The council thinks they have us figured out. They believe we are primitive children who stumbled onto advanced technology by accident. They have no idea what we have really been doing for the past 50 years. What do you mean? Asked General Collins. Lisa activated her tablet and connected it to the main screen. The display changed to show technical drawings and photographs that made everyone in the room lean forward in surprise. While other species have been sharing their technology freely through the Council's exchange programs, we have been doing something different. We have been studying everything we could get our hands on, taking it apart, figuring out how it works, and then making it better. The screen showed images of human research facilities hidden in asteroid belts disguised as mining operations. Other pictures revealed construction yards built inside hollow moons, invisible to the Council's sensors. Most shocking of all were the ships, hundreds of them, built using technology that looked both human and alien at the same time. Project Deadshot was not just about exploring space, Lisa continued. We have been mapping every star system within 1,000 light-years looking for resources and strategic positions. We used modified alien sensors that work 10 times better than the originals. Admiral Rodriguez stared at the screen. These ships, how many do we have? more than the Council knows about. Operation Steel Rain was our terraforming program, but it was also a cover for building military bases on worlds the aliens thought were uninhabitable. We have been preparing for this day since we first joined the Council. President Stone felt a mix of pride and fear. Why was I not told about all this? General Collins cleared his throat. Because it was not your decision to make, sir. This was a military operation planned by people who remembered what happened to every other species that trusted the Council completely. We learned from their mistakes. The screen changed again, showing detailed plans of alien ships and weapons. Every major species in the Council had shared their technology with humanity at some point, thinking they were helping a backward civilization. Instead, humans had been reverse engineering everything and finding ways to improve it. The Vexathari gave us their energy shield technology, Lisa explained. We made it 30% more efficient. The Maltech showed us how to phase shift through solid matter. We found a way to do it while carrying weapons. Every species that looked down on us also gave us the tools to surprise them. Admiral Rodriguez was already calling up fleet commanders on her communicator. How long before we can mobilize our hidden assets? The bases are already active, said General Collins. We have been waiting for something like this to happen. Our people knew the Council would eventually try to put us in our place. Yes, indeed. Stone stood up and walked to the big screen. He looked at the red dots showing enemy ships near human colonies, then at the blue dots showing hidden human bases and fleets. The numbers were closer than anyone had expected. The Council wants to treat us like children, he said slowly. They think we are too young and stupid to be dangerous. They are about to learn that humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt and survive. He turned to face the room. Send the activation codes to all our hidden facilities. Contact every colony commander and tell them the real war is about to begin. The aliens think they know what humans are capable of, but they have only seen what we wanted them to see. Dr. Grant smiled for the first time since returning to Earth. Jake Morrison sent me a message before I left the station. He said the Council members looked very pleased with themselves. They think this will be easy. Then they are in for the shock of their lives, said General Collins. Humanity did not survive ice ages, plagues, and world wars by giving up when things looked impossible. We survived by fighting back harder than anyone expected. President Stone nodded. Send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity rejects their ultimatum. We will not surrender our technology, we will not abandon our colonies, and we will not be treated as second-class citizens in our own galaxy. The room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. Earth was about to go to war with an enemy that controlled most of the known galaxy. It should have been suicide, but somehow it felt like justice. The sleeping giant was waking up, and it was angry. The attack came at exactly 600 hours, Galactic Standard Time. 12 massive Vexthari battlecruisers dropped out of hyperspace around New Terra, humanity's largest colony outside of the home system. Each alien ship was the size of a small city, bristling with energy weapons that could crack a planet's surface. War Prince Kexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the human colony through the main view screen. The settlement looked pathetic to his ancient eyes. Small buildings scattered across the surface, a few orbital platforms that appeared to be mining equipment, and maybe 30 human ships that looked like cargo haulers. Open communications, he ordered his crew. The War Prince had done this hundreds of times before. Most species surrendered immediately when they saw the power of the hegemony fleet. His message broadcast across all frequencies. Humans of New Terra, this is War Prince Kexthul of the Galactic Hegemony. By order of the Council, you have 72 hours to surrender all advanced technology and submit to protective custody. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Response came back within seconds, but it was not what Kexthul expected. This is Captain Sarah Blake of the New Terra Defense Force. Your ultimatum is rejected. You have 30 seconds to leave this system before we defend ourselves. Kexthul laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 30 seconds? These primitive humans thought they could threaten him? He had been conquering worlds when their species was still learning to make fire. Begin bombardment of their military targets, he ordered. That was when everything went wrong. The orbital platforms that looked like mining equipment suddenly changed shape. Metal panels slid away to reveal massive railgun batteries, each one the size of a city block. The weapons that the humans had disguised as industrial equipment were actually the most powerful kinetic cannons ever built. The first salvo fired before Kexthul could even give the order to raise shields. Solid metal projectiles moving at 30% of light speed slammed into his fleet. The hegemony ships had energy shields designed to stop laser weapons and plasma bolts, but they were useless against chunks of metal moving that fast. 3 battle cruisers simply disappeared, torn apart by impacts that released more energy than nuclear bombs. 2 more ships lost their main engines and began spinning helplessly through space. The remaining 7 ships raised their shields and began firing back, but the humans were already moving. Captain Sarah Blake stood on the bridge of her ship, the Defiant, watching the battle unfold exactly as they had planned. Her vessel looked like a simple cargo hauler from the outside, but that was just another disguise. Under the fake hull plates was one of the most advanced warships ever built. "All ships, execute pattern Delta," she ordered into her communicator. Around New Terra, 30 human ships that had appeared to be helpless cargo vessels suddenly dropped their disguises. Weapon ports opened, advanced engines came online, and sensor arrays that had been hidden became active. The hegemony had been expecting to fight mining ships and freight haulers. Instead, they found themselves facing a fleet designed specifically to kill their kind of vessels. The human ships did not fight like any species the War Prince had ever encountered. Most galactic civilizations specialized in one type of warfare. The Vexthari used massive energy weapons and heavy armor. The Moltec preferred stealth and hit-and-run tactics. The Kethrani built ships that could change their shape but moved slowly. Humans did all of those things at once. The Defiant used Kethrani crystal technology to shift its armor, making it nearly immune to energy weapons. At the same time, it employed Moltec phase shifting to appear in 3 different locations simultaneously, confusing the enemy targeting systems. Then it fired weapons that combined the best features of a dozen different alien technologies. War Prince Kexthul watched in growing horror as his ancient battle cruisers, ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds, were systematically destroyed by vessels that should not have existed. The humans were using technology from every major species in the Council, but they had improved it in ways that no one had thought possible. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, War Prince. Their weapons appear to be hybrids of multiple technologies. Their ships are using tactical doctrines from at least 6 different species simultaneously." Another hegemony battlecruiser exploded as human fighters swarmed around it like angry insects. The small craft were using modified Zethkori gravity manipulation to move in ways that defied physics, while firing weapons that punched through advanced alien armor like it was made of paper. The humans had studied every species in the Council, learned their strengths and weaknesses, and then built ships designed to exploit every advantage while avoiding every trap. It was the most brilliant and terrifying military strategy Kexthul had ever seen. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships, jump to hyperspace immediately." But the humans were not finished. As his surviving ships tried to escape, they found their hyperspace engines were being disrupted by some kind of field generator. The humans had even found a way to trap their enemies in normal space. One by one, the remaining hegemony ships were hunted down and destroyed. Only Kexthul's flagship survived, and that was because the humans allowed it to. As his ship limped away from the battle zone, he received a final message from Captain Blake. "Tell your council that humanity is not the weak species they think we are. We have been preparing for this day for 50 years. If they want a war, they will get one, but it will not be the easy victory they expected." The War Prince looked at the wreckage of his fleet floating in space around New Terra. 11 battlecruisers destroyed by 30 human ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers. It was impossible, but it had happened. Similar battles were being fought throughout human space. Every hegemony fleet sent to occupy human colonies was meeting the same fate. The species that the Council had dismissed as primitive children were revealing themselves to be the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. The message was clear. Humanity would not go quietly into the cage the Council had built for them. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than the speed of light itself. Within hours, every species in the Council knew about the disaster at New Terra. 11 hegemony battlecruisers destroyed by human ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels. It was the worst military defeat in the Council's 300-year history. On Nexus Prime, the Great Council chamber was in chaos. Supreme Chancellor Zixmoth stood at his black glass desk, his 4 yellow eyes dimmed with shock and anger. Around him, representatives from dozens of species were all talking at once, their voices creating a noise that even the universal translators could not sort out. "Silence!" the Chancellor roared, his crystal body flashing bright purple. The room fell quiet, but the fear in the air was so thick it could be tasted. War Prince Kexthul stood in the center of the chamber, his armor scorched and his pride destroyed. The proud Vexthari warrior looked like he had aged 100 years. In the past day, he was the only survivor of the greatest military disaster in galactic history. "Tell us again how this happened," said Counselor Velnara of the Moltec Collective. Her gaseous form rippled with anxiety. Kexthul's voice was hollow. The humans were not what they appeared to be. Their mining platforms were actually weapons. Their cargo ships were actually warships. Everything we thought we knew about them was a lie. More reports were coming in from across human space. Every hegemony fleet sent to occupy human colonies had been destroyed or forced to retreat. Captain Tony Garcia had captured an entire hegemony command ship near the Centauri system and was broadcasting the surrender of its crew on all frequencies. The message was clear. The galaxy's greatest military force had been beaten by the species they had dismissed as children. But the military defeats were only part of the problem. Intelligence reports were flooding in from across the galaxy, and each one made the situation worse. The Kiltar Mining Consortium revealed that humans had been buying obsolete technology from them for decades, paying premium prices for equipment that other species considered worthless. What the Kiltar had thought was human stupidity was actually human cleverness. The humans had been taking apart everything they could get their hands on, learning how it worked, and building better versions. The Delmari Trade Federation admitted that human cargo ships had been scanning their military installations for years. What they had thought were routine supply runs were actually intelligence-gathering missions. The humans had been mapping every major military base and shipyard in Council space. The Zethkori Collective dropped the biggest bombshell of all. The Tirde, ancient crystalline beings, had been alive for thousands of years and had helped found the Council itself. They revealed that human scientists had been asking them seemingly innocent questions about gravity manipulation and dimensional physics. Questions that had seemed like the curiosity of a young species were actually research for military applications. "They have been playing us for fools from the beginning," said Elder Zethmore, his crystal form pulsing with embarrassment. "While we thought we were teaching them, they were actually learning everything we knew and improving upon it." Chancellor Zixmoth felt the foundations of his world crumbling. The Council existed because older, wiser species guided younger ones. The system worked because everyone accepted their place in the hierarchy. But humans had refused to accept their place, and now they were proving that the hierarchy itself might be wrong. Dr. Kevin Park, Earth's ambassador to the Rim worlds, was making the situation even worse. The human diplomat was reaching out to smaller Council species, the ones who had always felt ignored and pushed around by the larger powers. His message was simple. If humanity could stand up to the Council, maybe other species could too. The response was overwhelming. Species after species began questioning why they needed the Council's protection. The hegemony was supposed to keep everyone safe, but they had just been defeated by a species that had been in space for only 50 years. What did that say about the Council's power? The Rim Alliance was the first to break away. 12 smaller species formally withdrew from the Council and requested human protection instead of hegemony oversight. They had seen what human hybrid technology could do, and they wanted to be on the winning side. Other species began making similar moves. The Outer Colonies Confederation voted to suspend their Council membership. The Independent Traders Union, announced they would no longer follow Council trade regulations. Everywhere, beings who had been quiet and obedient for centuries were suddenly finding their voices. Admiral Beth Rodriguez, now commanding a joint human-alien fleet, sent a message directly to Nexus Prime. The communication appeared on every screen in the Council chamber, and her words were calm but firm. To the Galactic Council and Supreme Chancellor Zixmoth, humanity does not seek to conquer the galaxy or replace your authority. We simply demand to be treated as equals, not as children who need supervision. Recognize our sovereignty and grant us full Council membership with all rights and privileges, or face the consequences of continued hostilities. The ultimatum hung in the air like a sword. For 300 years, the Council had been the one making demands and giving ultimatums. Now a species they had tried to cage was doing the same to them. Chancellor Zixmoth looked around the chamber at the faces of the other Council members. Some showed fear, others anger, but all showed the same thing: uncertainty. The old order was crumbling, and none of them knew what would replace it. "What do we do?" asked Councillor Velnara. The Chancellor did not have an answer. For the first time in his long life, he was faced with a problem that could not be solved with superior technology or ancient wisdom. The humans had both, and they had used them better than anyone thought possible. Outside the great windows of Nexus Prime, the galaxy continued to spin through space, but everything had changed. The age of Council dominance was ending, and the age of human influence was just beginning. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was reshaping the galaxy in its own image. 6 months after the first battle at New Terra, Captain Jake Morrison walked through the grand entrance of Nexus Prime once again. But this time, everything was different. He was no longer a prisoner being dragged before an angry council. He was Admiral Morrison now, the official representative of the Human Allied Coalition, and he carried the power to reshape galactic civilization. Behind him walked ambassadors from 47 different species. Some were old enemies of the Council, who had been waiting centuries for this moment. Others were former Council members who had grown tired of being told what to do by beings who claimed to be wiser than them. All of them had one thing in common: they believed that humanity offered a better future than the Council ever had. The Great Chamber looked the same as it had 6 months ago, but the atmosphere was completely different. Where once there had been confidence and pride, now there was only defeat and fear. The Council members sat in their elevated seats like judges who had lost their authority. Some chairs were empty, their former occupants having fled Nexus Prime when it became clear which way the war was going. Supreme Chancellor Zixmoth stood behind his black glass desk, but his crystal body was dim and cracked. The proud leader, who had once dismissed humanity as primitive children, now looked like a broken old man. His 4 yellow eyes no longer glowed with power, and his voice shook when he spoke. "Admiral Morrison," he said, and everyone in the chamber could hear the defeat in his words. "The Council is prepared to hear your terms." Jake looked up at the alien who had humiliated him 6 months ago. He felt no anger, no desire for revenge. The war was over, and now it was time to build something better. "The terms are simple, Chancellor," Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "The Galactic Council as it currently exists will be dissolved. The hegemony military force will be disbanded immediately. All species will be free to govern themselves without interference from any central authority." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some Council members looked relieved that they were not being executed or imprisoned. Others looked terrified at the thought of losing the power they had held for centuries. "What will replace us?" asked Elder Zethmore of the Zethkori Collective. The ancient crystal being had lived for over 5,000 years and had seen empires rise and fall, but he had never seen anything like this. Colonel Lisa Murphy, Earth's new Secretary of Galactic Affairs, stepped forward. She activated a holographic display that showed a new map of the galaxy, divided not by Council territories but by voluntary alliances and trade partnerships. "We propose a cooperative alliance," she said. "Any species that wishes to join can do so freely. Any species that wants to leave can do so without penalty. Technology will be shared openly, not hoarded by those who claim to know better. Military Protection will be provided by mutual defense pacts, not by forcing weaker species to submit to stronger ones. The display showed dozens of species already lined up to join the new alliance. The Rim Worlds, the Outer Colonies, the Independent, traders, and many others who had been ignored or oppressed by the Council for centuries. Even some former Council strongholds were considering switching sides. "And what of us?" asked Councillor Velnara of the Moltec. "What happens to the species who supported the old system?" Jake stepped forward again. "Any species that wants to join the alliance will be welcomed as equals. The humans are not interested in revenge or punishment. We just want to make sure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else." Dr. Kevin Park, who had spent months building relationships with smaller species throughout the galaxy, activated another display. This one showed technological sharing agreements, trade routes, and research partnerships that would benefit everyone involved. "The old council system was based on fear and control," he explained. "Older species stayed in power by keeping younger ones dependent on them. Our system is based on cooperation and growth. Everyone benefits when knowledge is shared, freely." The negotiations that followed lasted for 3 days, but the outcome was never in doubt. The council had no choice but to accept the human terms. Their military was destroyed, their authority was gone, and their member species were abandoning them one by one. When the formal treaty was signed, it marked the end of an era that had lasted for 300 years. The Galactic Council was officially dissolved, its territories redistributed to the new cooperative alliance. The hegemony fleets were either scrapped or converted to peaceful purposes. 6 months later, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest ship, the Renaissance. The vessel was unlike anything that had ever been built before. It combined technologies from dozens of different species, but it was designed according to human principles of cooperation and innovation. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from across the galaxy working together in ways that the old council had never imagined. Human engineers worked alongside Zethkori scientists to develop new faster-than-light engines. Moltec traders shared routes with Delmari merchants, increasing profits for everyone involved. Former enemies now stood as partners in humanity's vision of what the galaxy could become. Dr. Lisa Grant joined him at the window, looking out at the bustling shipyard where vessels of every design imaginable were being built or repaired. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. "This peace we have built?" Jake watched a group of young beings from different species working together on a new exploration ship. Human children learning alongside alien kids, sharing ideas and dreams that transcended the old boundaries of race and planet. "It will last because it is based on something the Council never understood," he said. "They tried to maintain order through control and fear. We are building it through respect and opportunity." A message appeared on his communicator from Earth. President Stone was announcing the launch of the next phase of the Alliance expansion. 50 more species had requested membership in the past month, and exploration fleets were being organized to search for new worlds and new civilizations to invite into the growing partnership. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had thought possible. The age of rigid hierarchies and forced obedience was ending. In its place rose an era of cooperation, innovation, and shared prosperity that honored the best qualities of every species involved. Jake smiled as he watched a new ship launch from the shipyard, its hull gleaming with the symbols of a dozen different worlds. The Galactic Council had overlooked humanity's greatest power, thinking it was just another primitive species that needed to be controlled and guided. They had been wrong. Humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology. It was their refusal to accept limitations, their determination to forge their own path, and their belief that every being in the galaxy deserved the chance to reach for something better. The reminder had been delivered, and the galaxy would never forget it.